Hey YouTubers, it's Lux here. I tried several times last night to repost this video by Tatoott1009 and for some reason it would not upload. So I'm just going to go ahead and show the page to his video as I talk. I just want to say that everybody on YouTube has a different delivery style. My delivery style tends to be to either read, mostly to hide my southern accent, and to focus, or just to babble. I'm going to babble a little bit now, and I hope you hear me. I would suggest that every single person start taking an interest in a couple of different areas. Okay, I know we're all busy. I know we're all trying to make ends meet and take care of things. But there are some things going on that might demand some of your attention now, because I believe things have gone a little bit too far. In a society where we have so much access to all sorts of information, it's sort of sad and confusing, frankly, to me, that we would be so uneducated, so unaware of what is truly going on. You know, not many people enjoy sitting in front of C-SPAN for hours on end. I'm a dork and I enjoy that kind of thing, and furthermore I understand the legalese and the nonsense that's taking place. Other people can just sit there and not really understand it. The first thing I'm going to say is that in this day and age, every single person has a community college near them. Every single person has access to the internet and can take classes online. To simply read the document known as the Constitution with its Bill of Rights, that's a good start. But in order to really understand how far we've come as a country and how it happened that we've come this far, mostly in terms of our civil rights and our liberties, you really need to study the body of law that surrounds the Constitution. That would be known as common law or criminal law. The case law that surrounds the document is truly the beautiful thing. It's also shocking in a lot of ways. I can remember when I was in law school, probably second year, and this wasn't an uncommon event among law students, but particularly during con law. When you stand up to brief a case, or you listen to one of your fellow comrades standing up to brief a case, sometimes their delivery of that brief is just mind-bending, and people will just burst into tears. I know for me, one of my outbursts occurred during the reading of the Dred Scott case. There was a time in this country where dark-skinned individuals were considered property of white-skinned individuals. And the status of the dark-skinned individuals varied from state to state. If you were a dark-skinned individual and you were owned by somebody with lighter skin in a certain state, you were property. Now, if you escaped into a state where dark-skinned people were actually considered human beings under the law, there was a time where the white-skinned person who asserted a property right over you had the legal right to chase you down and to assert his property right over you and to bring you back. Now, that is unthinkable in this day and age, today. But the law has changed. There was a time where people who were considered mentally defective did not have any sort of autonomy. They were almost animals. And I don't need to mention that women were considered chattel. That's chattel, not cattle. But it's actually sort of similar in a lot of ways. So don't just wave the Constitution around and think that you understand it. Okay, I understand that reading law books is really boring and confusing if you don't have a law professor telling you what things mean. But you can get what is known as case notes, which is a breakdown in plain, everyday, language that people who aren't law students and lawyers can understand, and you can get these case notes used. You can buy them on Amazon, you can buy them on eBay, and you can read the broken down versions of the case law, the holdings, the opinions, etc. And I would advise you to get some case notes for constitutional law and for criminal law. Very interesting reading. And I say this for a very good reason. If you don't know how we got here, if you don't have an appreciation for how the law of our nation has changed, then it's not going to seem very concerning to you when you watch the news. Most people can sense that something is very wrong, but they're not really sure what that is. When you read the case law that grew up around the Constitution, it's going to come very clear to you that things can change, things do change. And I'm telling you right now, we're becoming a less free society. And just because these lack of freedoms has not impacted you in any discernible or overt manner, okay, nobody is pushing down your door and taking your property right now because you're a good law-abiding citizen. Trust me, things can and do change. And there's an increasing tendency to change the law in our nation, not by means of the Constitution, which is the guiding document for our country, but by means of the legislature, by means of executive order. In other words, things that you have no say over. All right, your state and national legislators do not necessarily represent your interests. When is the last time you made your interests known to your congresspeople? All right, people are lazy. If you want to know something that you can do, get online, get some case notes for con law and crim law, and start doing some reading. Start at the beginning of the book and go to the end. If there's something you don't understand, you get on the internet and you research it. If you're super motivated, contact your local community college. Don't take a criminal justice class. Okay, that's something completely different. That is not the law. All right, police officers, state police officers, and sheriffs do not go to law school. It's a completely different approach. Do not take criminal justice classes alone. Certainly something good to take, but if you want to understand the actual law, you need to take a con law and a crim law class. Second, I want to talk a little bit about what goes on in this video that Tatoott has posted. He has posted the version wherein there is no audio. There are other versions online and on YouTube which contain the audio. This police misconduct, and I'm going to call it that, I'm also going to call it a gross violation of civil rights and liberties, is absolutely unspeakable. You have two females on a dark road in a public space. They're not behaving in any manner which is suspicious. The male officer had access to a female officer. That female officer could have just done a basic pat-down search of these two women if they really believed that there was something going on. They also could have searched the vehicle. The search that was conducted was unsupervised. It was performed in a public place. First and foremost, it was unhygienic, which is a whole other legal scenario. I did not see the female officer change her gloves between searches on these two suspects. When you hear the audio, it's going to come very clear to you that these women absolutely were not behaving suspiciously. In fact, the driver continues to assert that she's been violated, that she can't believe what's going on. I want you to put yourself in her position. Okay, because when you hear the audio, it will become clear to you that this can happen to you. All right, now what do you do if something like this happens? What do you do if this happens to a friend or a family member? What do you do if you see this going on? Well, you need to report this, and I'm not saying to report it to the agency. All right? If you see your local police department doing something of this sort, or to you, yes, definitely call that department, but you need to go above and beyond that. And you also need to get your friends, family members, and the online community is always here for you. Get other people involved as well. You have a duty to your fellow citizens, to your children, to your grandchildren, to report these kinds of things, because if it goes unpunished one time, it will continue to happen. The female officer seemed to be very comfortable performing this. It seems to me that she's done this a number of times. She did not hesitate in touching these women. Now, I can also tell you, if you watch the arm, okay, above the hand with which she is searching these ladies, the back of her hand is not turned towards the woman's body. You can see that her wrist is pointed in a forward manner, which means she is in fact searching the body cavity. That is a highly invasive search and should never, ever have been performed in the manner and in the location where that search was performed. I am very seriously hoping that this woman and this gentleman officer are expelled. I am hoping that they never, ever again get to wear a uniform, not in a private security company, not in any other agency. These two human beings have no right at this juncture to ever operate under color of law. Conduct like this by police is never, ever acceptable, and everyone should be highly concerned about this. So with that, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to suggest that you watch this video. Again, everyone has a delivery style. I tend to babble. Tatoott is fired up. There are dozens, possibly by now, hundreds of people talking about these types of things just on YouTube alone. If what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you, perhaps you'll find somebody who says something that hits home for you. But go out, get online. You don't even have to leave your home. Order some case notes for constitutional law, for criminal law. Read the cases. Read the cases that flesh out the Constitution. Read the judicial opinions. Read the holdings of the case. Things can change for the better. They can also change for the worse. Now, I know what I think. And until you read this body of law, anything that you might think is not based on fact. It might be based on your opinion. It might be based on some sort of emotion. But you really do need to read the actual law. I'll be very interested to hear what especially legal professionals of all different levels are saying, as well as law enforcement, hoping that law enforcement all over the country comes out against this. And I will add one more thing. I did see a video yesterday which featured a Lieutenant J. Paul Vance, I believe that's his name, from Connecticut. And I want to speak to him. LT, there will be no prosecutions for free speech in this country. There will be no prosecutions against individuals on the internet for speculating on current events and perceived circumstances. I don't know who your superiors are. I don't know who wrote your talking points. But there will be no prosecutions for free speech in this country. Everyone should be sort of ticked off about what the LT said the other day. Again, I think he's been had. I think someone wrote his talking points for him. I don't want to be disrespectful to the lieutenant, but I'm sure there's somebody in command above him who is probably the person who should have said what the lieutenant said. And I think that that person didn't say those things because they're patently false. You cannot go after people for speculating on a set of facts. You cannot go after people in terms of a federal prosecution for exercising their First Amendment right. The Constitution trumps all other laws. It trumps federal law. Now, the argument to that, of course, is that there's an incitement of violence on the internet. People who are speculating about a potential hoax with respect to the various shootings that have taken place, that perhaps they're related. The argument is going to be that these people who are speculating on these issues are somehow inciting violence, so that federal law must come in and trump your First Amendment right. Do not let anyone tell you that that is the case. That is not the case. I believe that Lieutenant J. Paul Vance spoke falsely. I believe he spoke without understanding the law. I believe someone wrote his talking points for him, and nobody needs to be afraid of federal prosecution for speaking their mind or speculating on current events. Last time I checked, that was called an opinion. Hope everybody's doing good. Stay warm, be safe. As SO would say, no fear, and keep looking up.